Only 3 words come to my mind.
Mother of God.
My most anticipated collectible of the year is finally here. You guys better buckle up because this is going to be a long one.
Hey, that's what she said.
Welcome to the Extreme Channel. My name is Mr. X. Today we're taking an in-depth look at this custom. Means private commission. They made 70 of these. 1/4 scale. In real life, this would be 4 times larger. Rogue vs. Sentinel X-Men statue. If you're new to the channel, I have tons of high-end collectibles like this. I get anywhere from 1 to 4 new ones every week, and this is my most anticipated piece of 2020. Now that she's here, I'm almost without words. But I'm gonna try and muster some up to do an in-depth review with you guys today. Now, before we get started, we're doing a couple giveaways. On our road to 20,000 subs, we are giving out this Mortal Kombat statue at 12,500 subs. All you have to do is make sure you've liked this video, you've subscribed to the channel, and you've hit that bell notification and stay tuned for that giveaway. Also, we do monthly giveaways. We choose 2 random videos. Traditionally, we do my favorite video, which this may be it. So make sure you comment below. That's all you have to do is comment and you're entered in to win one of those 2 lucky prizes. Now, as we dive into this piece, this is part of a line I've been collecting for a long time, and I have a lot more pieces coming as well. Here's some of the pieces from this line. The first one I ever got was the custom Magneto vs. Sentinel. Picture right here. Then we have this custom Psylocke that she was cutting a Sentinel hand in half. This custom Cyclops blasting through a Sentinel hand. This Iceman freezing the Sentinel hand, which may be my biggest 1/4 scale statue. And then here is a picture of the next piece coming out in a few months. This is a Colossus tearing apart this Sentinel head. I recently saw some painted pictures of it. It looks fantastic. As I said, these are private commissions. They are long sold out. They're not available. Really, the only place to find them is secondhand buy-sell trade groups. So if you're interested, try and find some of those. Now with this piece, I am overwhelmed, guys. It is amazing. There's a reason it was one of my most anticipated pieces. I think this is even more elaborate than the Iceman. Now the Iceman had a lot of controversy. I personally love it. It's one of my top statues. So let's see if she's the same. And there's some controversy around her already. Anytime there's a great piece, it seems like there's always controversy around it. And there's some things that I think this is the most amazing I've ever seen, and then there are things in this that I would have changed. So we're going to look at both of those, and let's start with concept of this piece. You know, when you talk about concept, everyone's on the Sentinel rage. Custom groups, license groups, they're making X-Men that are tearing apart Sentinel pieces. One of the things I love about this group is I think the Sentinels are properly scaled where it's not done anywhere else. I mean, this head is just gigantic, and the base itself is part of the Sentinel head. So what I love about this is they truly capture the entire Sentinel. This may be the best Sentinel piece I've ever seen, which we'll talk about more. And as you move up, you see Rogue. And she's in an interesting pose we'll talk about when we get to Sculpt. It looks kind of funny, but she's doing something that's very funny. And like I said, we'll get into more detail about that, but it's your traditional Rogue in her green and yellow costume, her leather jacket. And as you move up, there's actually tons of head switch outs we're going to talk about. Right here with this one, she is showing rage. She is pissed, and she is showing her power, her strength of tearing apart this Sentinel head. And it is awesome. The damage on it, you're going to see so many different details. I won't even be able to show you everything. But I think the concept is awesome, and that's what makes this piece. It is incredibly cool because with Rogue, you want to show her powers. Her absorbing powers are kind of hard to show, but you may be able to show it like this custom Rogue I reviewed right here, where she actually has Gambit's and Wolverine's power. You want to show her maybe flying, which the Sideshow Rogue maquette does. I've done that review as well right here. Or of course you can show her strength, and that is what this is doing, and it's doing it phenomenally. And I also like the fact that it's adding the Sentinel into it. Now sometimes with a piece, the base can be more overpowering than the character. This is very close to that. It may even be doing it. However, I just am in awe when I look at this, which is what concept is about. From the sides, from the front, I think it looks amazing. I think this is an X concept, which means a 5 out of 5. This is the most, one of the most amazing concepts I've ever seen. Possibly the most. Now design. So design, we talk about displayability. Do things fit well together? Is it in scale? Are there switch outs? So let's start with the switch outs, because believe it or not, she has this head on here, and she has 6 other heads. And just being upfront with you guys, when we get to paint and sculpt, I think the portraits are the weakest part of this statue. So I almost want to see if I can customize Sideshow's head and see if that would work on it. It doesn't just fit in, I already tried, but then after that you'd have 8 heads.
Oh, I beg your pardon? 8? 8, Bob.
So let's take a look at each of the portraits in an order of worst to best. So here's my least favorite. This has a lot of masculine qualities, which is why I don't like it. Both in the paint and sculpt, which we're not really reviewing right now, but she has kind of this smirk. Not a fan of this portrait at all. So the next portrait is very similar. So instead of that wavy hair, the full hair with the white on the right, the white is on both sides and it's more of the straighter hair, but it's kind of the same expression. For me, I will never display this one. And the next one, I thought I would enjoy more, but this one, she has the full hair and her teeth are gridded. I think there's some paint opportunity around the teeth. However, even with that, again, it's a little too mannish for me. I do like the expression of how she's really showing her power. And we'll look at some of these really close in paint and sculpt, but not the ones I'm never going to display. This next one is she's kind of a mix between the last two we saw. So she does have the straight hair, the white hair is flowing in the wind. Most of these, the hair is flowing a little bit. Here, she's kind of in the middle of getting ready to have rage, whether it's gritting her teeth or opening her mouth. One of the things I think that's a big miss on these portraits is Rogue is supposed to be beautiful. She's supposed to be very pretty. I do not see that in these portraits yet. However, moving to the next few portraits, this is where I think it's really good because it shows the rage. So because she's showing the rage, you don't really expect her to be beautiful. There's still some masculine features in this, and I don't know if it's the expression, but her mouth is open, her lip is kind of a little Elvis lip, and her hair is straight and parted both ways with the white. So this is my third favorite one. And then let's move to my second favorite one. Very similar to the previous one, except her hair is more wavy, full, and the white is completely to the right. And it seems to me that they did a little bit better paint job on this. So this is one I will keep out to switch. However, my favorite is the one I have displayed on her. This is kind of a combination of the last three put together. Here she does not look as mannish. It looks more just like a woman who is pissed. So I think that fits the concept perfectly. And one of the things I really noticed on these is when you look at the portraits off of the body, they look worse. However, when they're on the body, it really connects to the story and it looks amazing. I've never really seen a dynamic like that before where I look at the portrait off of it and I'm like, not a fan at all. And then I put it on and it's like, wow, that looks really good. But that is the case here. It also has a light up feature. Here are the eyes not lit up, but take a look at the eyes actually lit up. Little button under the nose, turns it on. Kind of neat. I'll never use it. Now, I tried to take pictures of all the different pieces, and I just got so excited because this was my most anticipated piece. But the base is one piece. This back neck spine is another. The head is two different pieces. You have one here and then kind of a dome that sits on top. The head is hollow, which makes sense if you think about the weight. On Rogue, underneath her knees, her boots are one piece. Her torso is one piece minus her portraits and her head. Now getting her arms underneath this and putting this on the same time is easy if you have 4 hands. I only have 2, so it was pretty difficult. Now these pieces down here, they also come out. Just a magnet on both sides. So assembly, the concept is very easy, but if you're doing it alone, it is a little bit more difficult. One of the big issues with this line is people think that it is larger than 1/4 scale, and sometimes I have to agree with that. However, here is a picture of the Sideshow portrait next to one of their portraits. It's hard to compare bodies because the weird position her body is at, most of the other Rogue statues I have are straight, so you can't really tell if they're off or not, but I think this is true 1/4 scale. I'm gonna put her next to all my other X-Men pieces. If you guys wanna see that, make sure you have liked and followed the Extreme Channel Facebook page. The link is in the description below. A lot of times I'll do a review and then post specific pictures on there. So displayability becomes a problem because she is so big, this whole piece. But I think the scale is accurate. So if you want a true Rogue 1/4 scale ripping apart a 1/4 scale Sentinel, this is correct. So overall design, I really can't find a lot of problems or things I would do differently. The nice thing is everything sits really well, nothing's really leaning. When you do a project this elaborate, you wonder over time, will this break? I don't think it will. However, due to the sheer size of this that limits the displayability, I think that's a negative. So it's not a perfect design, but it is a 4 out of 5. I think this is a rail. So for design, it's not quite a grail, but something people really want. Now during paint and sculpt, I'm going to jump all over because there is so much in this piece, I just keep taking more and more in.
That's what she said.
Stay tuned for the end because I will also show some close-up videos, and then at the very end I will show you links to the reviews of those other pieces. First I want to look at the outside of the Sentinel. So starting at the bottom here, what I love is the battle damage. You can tell that either the Sentinel's been around for a while or she's been messing with the Sentinel. It looks totally obliterated. As I said before, I think this is the best Sentinel piece I've ever seen. And with that, I love the paint job. I love the flecks of black and white mixed in and gray with the purple and the circuitry. There is so much cool stuff going on. And then where she ripped it apart, I love that aspect as well. It looks like it was true metal that was ripped in half. I think they did an awesome, awesome job with that. Then let's look at the top. I think the Sentinel face is perfect. I love everything from the circuitry and stuff you can see around the jaw lines on the sides. You see a lot more of that battle damage we were talking about. Take a look at the front of the portrait here. Very, very cool. You saw earlier, you saw the eyes light up, but I love this face. I think it's it's kind of a scary face, to be honest with you, if these were giant robots walking around. And this gold color has a lot more of that battle damage. Almost looks like burns and scarring, whether they were fighting with Cyclops or other enemies. Here's the back of kind of the neck, the spine. And what's interesting, we're going to look at the inside of the spine in a second. But again, very battle damage. I love the coloring on this. It is so perfect. I hate to say it, but it is perfect. It's exactly what I'd want. Take a look at the inside. So here's the spine. Looks kind of like a human spine. Obviously metallicized with robot and other mechanisms. You can see a lot of the tubes broken off. And not only on the spine, but look at the top where she's pushing up. And I'm actually going to display this high. So unfortunately, I won't see a lot of the Sentinel head, but I will see a lot of this part, which I think both are fantastic to look at. And the same thing can be said at the bottom. You see a lot more of the inner workings and parts, these different colored wires. Everything is sculpted. It looks like she just bashed the hell out of this. It is so cool, and the paint and sculpt just really pop. Let's take a look at Rogue, starting at her boots. One of the things you're going to find all over Rogue is where you see the yellow, you have that different almost orange shading in different parts of it. Her boots are a little more glossy, but not quite super glossy, which I really respect. I think it's a great contrast to the rest. You see tons of folds because, as we talked about, she's at an incredibly awkward position. You see some straps up towards the top. The paint job could have been a little bit cleaner where the yellow meets the black. I think that's a tiny bit of a miss with the paint. Some buckles on the sides of there. Then here's her outfit. You see a lot more of that shading where the yellow is, and where the yellow isn't, you have this green. And not only is it outlined by this awesome black color, and here the paint's really, really clean, but it has this great texture to it, which really adds to the statue. If they didn't add this texture, I would see it being a lot more boring. And it goes all the way up to her side, and you can even see it on her arms here. And she has her biceps rippling. I think the anatomy is perfect. You know, you don't see a female with biceps like this too often because she does have smaller arms, but she is a very, very strong female. And check out her torso here. It's kind of bending in a unique way. And Franco, who's the sculptor of this, my favorite sculptor, did some really good things with the anatomy to kind of show it. He didn't give her a six-pack that's showing because of the angle she's at. And another interesting part, we didn't really talk about it earlier, but the way her legs are shaped, one almost looks longer than the other, but it's not. It's just the way that they are staged in the Sentinel and the position she's at. Here's her rack for everyone that wants to see it. A little bit of folds in the middle. I think it's perfect. Usually with these comic pieces, you have a large rack like she does, but it's not too big.
That's what she said.
Her belt looks awesome. So I love the leather effect they did with both the paint and sculpt on here. And she has some pouches to complement it on the side. The X-Men buckle, the red paint could have been a little more clean where it meets the black. I think that's the biggest issue with the paint on the body here, is a few areas it wasn't as clean. But let's look at the jacket. This is amazing. If you watch some of my other Rogue videos, I said on Rogue, or leather jackets, I prefer a mixed media or a fabric jacket because you cannot sculpt a good leather jacket. I am wrong. This looks like a fabric mixed media jacket, and it's leather. The colorings they did, the sculpt they did, the way it's flying and the movement and the flow of it and the buckles, this is phenomenal. Let's look, here's some close-ups of that portrait, my favorite portrait. Great paintwork around the mouth, especially on the tongue, a little bit of a glistening effect. And I think the paint, the shade of skin could be a little bit different. I think there's some opportunity there. Her eyes are fine. Everything's sculpted in. I think there could have been a little more differentiation in the strands, but you don't really see her hair, so I don't mind that as much. And then here I am holding, because I didn't want to switch it out. It's kind of a pain to switch it out. Again, I have the same comments about the hair. It's kind of globbed together a little bit more than I'd like it, but you don't see this. This is kind of facing the back of the Sentinel. I also didn't mention the band she has around her head. That looks fabulous. There's some tiny details in there to show the folds, and I think the color really complements the rest of the outfit. So how do I rate that paint and sculpt? It's incredibly difficult for me because paint, there's a few issues where it could have been cleaner. I think most of the opportunity for paint is in the portraits. However, some of them are ones I'm never going to display. I think paint on 95% of the rest of the statue is amazing, especially for factory, non-professional paint. I am extremely impressed by that. I'm impressed especially by the Sentinel, which is the huge portion of the statue. So I think I'm just going to fall as a 4 out of 5. I think the paint on a lot of the portraits, honestly, would be a 3 at best, but the rest of it, I think, really makes up for that. And honestly, sculpt, I'm falling a lot along the same lines. The sculpt on the Sentinel itself would be a higher rating than an X, at least for me. Rogue's body is somewhere between a 4 and 5, without a doubt. Her portrait, again, it's probably a 3. That's the good ones. And the bad ones, I would even rank lower than that. So I don't know where to land overall, so I think I'm going to give this overall a 4 out of 5 on the sculpt. It's amazing that I think 95% of it is way beyond expectations and 5% of it's okay. I haven't talked about value yet, price, so let's talk about that. Cost on the statue was 1,400 euros. It was either 13 or 1,400, which is about $1,700 in the US, depending what the exchange rates are. Shipping was a nightmare. It was 2 giant heavy boxes. And during the Karachi virus, shipping rates are twice as much. Initial DHL Express shipping on her was damn near $1,000. Thankfully, the group commissioner worked with some of the people in the group and some other great companies out there, and they were able to get another option for us, which was still quite a bit. It was still, I think, like $600, $700, somewhere in that range. So all in, you're about $2,200 to $2,800, depending on how you paid for shipping on this. This is unique. There's only 70 of them. The size, the presence alone is massive. I would say on value, she's a 3 out of 5. I think she's a 4 she's very good on the value. She's not amazing, but realistically, I think there are some other Rogue options that are a third of the price that are also very good. So overall score, does it have the X factor? Is she the best Rogue out there? I think she is the best Rogue out there when you look at the statue as a whole. Right now, what I'm looking at is amazing. I think Sideshow's portraits on the recent maquette are better. That's more my taste. Is this an X statue? This was your most anticipated piece, Mr. X. Did it live up to expectations? You're damn straight it did. I think this is an X statue. This is one I will keep forever. I would choose this over the Sideshow Rogue maquette because I just love everything about it. I think this is an X statue. Its presence alone. This will be a statue that people walk into the room and they go over towards. That's the realism of it. So here's some close-up video for you guys.
Previously on X-Men.
Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. Make sure to let me know in the comments below what you think of her. If you like stuff like this, click on that playlist for other amazing custom statues. Also, make sure you hit subscribe by clicking on that Mr. X emblem. Otherwise, I will talk to you tomorrow. Take care.